Well, good morning and welcome to this glorious spring morning here in Bromley Common as we continue on our Lenten journeys. Today I'm going to focus on how much we are loved. A very important thing to know. When we were at college, we were repeatedly told that if you take a passage out of context, its historical and its literal context, all you are left with is a con. And yet, so often when we read the Bible, we just read little tiny bits without actually putting it all into sequence. We found that by looking at the Bible as a whole in big chunks, it helped us to understand the really difficult passages. They became far less confusing when we put them in the light of what was going on historically at the time. And they challenged us how those times were similar to our own. So the stories that Jesus told have often been separated from each other into little snippets. And today we're going to read one of those stories. It's the story of the pearl of great price. And I'm going to read from Matthew 13. And it says, well, I'll read two parables. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. And then in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys the field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. I remember when our children were little, we had a children's Bible that told this story rather amusingly, with the merchant even selling his bright red hat to buy this wonderful pearl. But then I wonder, how many times have we heard this sermon being expounded, this passage being told that the kingdom of heaven is so precious that we have to give up everything for it, that we have to give up everything to follow Jesus. I know I have countless times, and in fact, if you look at many commentaries, that's what it says. But what if that's wrong? What if the story, like so much of Jesus' teaching, is just upside down? I challenge you to read the whole of Matthew 13. You have the parable of the sower, the parable of the weeds and the wheat, the parable of the mustard seed and the yeast. And then you have three little parables. Parable of nets, of fishing. And what's interesting is that the parables before, the parable of the great, story of the pearl, all talk about the kingdom being something small in amongst something big. And that basically everything is allowed to grow higgledy-piggledy and will all be sorted out in the end. That's how the parable of the fish, a huge net is thrown and everything is brought in and then it is sorted. So it's interesting that we then say that the kingdom of heaven is like the pearl that we have to spend all our everything on. I can't imagine that Jesus would suddenly change tack and change what he was trying to say. So here's a challenge. What if the greatest treasure and the pearl of great price. What if they were us? You, me, the world. What if we are the pearl of great price? And that God is the merchant who gives everything, absolutely everything, for us, so that we can be saved. Well, that puts a different spin on it, doesn't it? That we are loved so much, that we are the pearl of great price, that we are precious, that we are of infinite value. It's not about how much we give and how much we do, but how much God loves us, that we are loved. When Richard proposed to me, unbeknownst to me, he sold his most precious possession, his camera, in order to buy my engagement ring. Now, that's just a small illustration, but that shows how much he loves me. That he chose to give up his precious possessions to have me as his bride. Multiply that a millionfold, and that's what God has done for us. He regards us as being that pearl of great price that he chooses to give everything up for. We are the pearl of great price. So be blessed and know that you are loved. You are precious. God delights in you. That God gave absolutely everything for us because he loves us and doesn't worry about the cost. We don't have to pay the cost because he already has. So be blessed, and we'll continue on our journeys tomorrow. Bye-bye.